Student to the stage. Welcome Christine Baker. Let her hear it. Let her hear it.
Wow. Giving advice about sex is really tough, isn't it? My daughter called me and she said, Mom, I want you to explain some things to me. How do I know if I'm horny or just hungry? I never had that problem, but anyway, she did. And I really knew. But anyway, I said, well, honey, it all depends where you decide to put the cucumber. So, right? Or a carrot. But anyway. Okay. So then she was like, and then she wanted some more advice. She said, Mom, I went out on this date, and this guy named his dick. He had a name for it. He kept calling it the wing dang doodle doodle noodle. And I was like, don't worry about that. When I was single, guys were always naming their penises. I heard the coctopus. I heard the weapons of ass destruction. I heard hunk the Wonder Goose. And she said, well, what did you do when that happened? I said, well, I married Honk the Wonder Goose. So she said, TMI, WTF, and she hung up, So anyway, well, how do I know how much advice to give kids? It's not like they come out of you with like instructions tattooed on their ass, So, well, anyway, so, I always wondered why some guys have to name, it, right? And I figured it out. Plausible deniability. I didn't give you herpes. It was the wonderful Wizard of Schnoz. So, I don't know. So, we don't, at least women I know, don't name their, and this isn't Mimi and Fifi. And, this isn't, Venus Snatch Trap or something. My nephew called me and I said, your cousin hung up on me. And because I was trying to give her some advice on sex, he says, I found out about sex really early, Aunt Chris. He said, your sister, my mom, taught me about sex. I said, she did? He said, when I was 5. I said, really? He said, yeah. I hid in her closet one afternoon. Yeah. And she was in there, not with Daddy. And so I was kind of trying to listen through a crack, and my mom, this is my nephew talking, sat straight up in bed and said, oh my God, my husband's home. Well, the guy she was with leaped out of bed and ran into the closet. And my nephew's in there. And, and the guy notices my nephew, and my nephew says, gee, it's kind of dark in here. And the guy goes, shh, I know it's dark, but please, you have to be quiet. And my nephew goes, but it's awfully dark in here. And so then he says, all right, here's $100. And just, that'll shut you up. So my sister gets rid of her husband, comes back upstairs. The guy comes out and says, I can't carry on, I'm gonna go back to work. She opens up the closet door to straighten out the closet, and there's my nephew in there counting the money. And like all good parents, she whipped the shit out of him till he told her what he had done. And she said, you're going down to the church, you're gonna put that money in the poor box, and you're gonna confess your sins. So my nephew goes down to the church, he puts the money in the poor box, he shuts the door, and he in the confessional, and he says, gee, it's a little dark in here. And the priest says, now don't start that crap again. Wow. All right. So So anyway, so my mother gave me the talk, you know, when I was young, you know, the talk. She could never call things by their anatomically correct name. A vagina was a hoo-hoo. Yeah. A penis was a doojiggy. So basically, she was teaching me like she was reading a Dr. Seuss book. It went something like this. Now that you're big, there's some things you should know. Some things you should know about your bits down below. If Horton wants to hump your pretty little hoo-hoo, you must know what you should do. Don't let that Grinch go very far if he pulls out his junk while you're in a car. And if you and someone are in bed, don't let his big doojiggy get near your head. And if your hoo-hoo is on his top, you won't ever want, ever to stop. Only one doojiggy at one time, two jiggies at once, risque but sublime. No matter how much he pleads or he begs, you won't want his doojiggy fertilizing your eggs. The last two bits of advice to remember, my dear, is they always must be wrapped in doojiggy gear. And no matter how much he wants to do, never let him put his doojiggy up your wazoo.
Christy!